So Sagan and Shklovsky spent quite a bit of time making some effort to understand how these ancient myths can relate to the possibility of extraterrestrial life. Although, in the broadest sense, it could just be as an alien. I mean, as those supernatural characters being supernatural, and as a result of that being considered unknown to the humans that saw them. And he uses, for example, these engravings that he finds of people who look not quite like the rest of the people described in these ancient tablets, kind of proving that these aliens are just differently shaped than the other humans that you would think of. So if they are differently shaped, then maybe they have a different livelihood, maybe a different point of origin. If they have as part of their myth the existence of all humans coming from the same point, and as a result, you should expect all humans to be the same. But if, on the other hand, you see a human that looks different, or maybe walks on four legs, that we have mentioned in previous video, or maybe extremely tall or extremely short, then those people could very easily be considered a different kind of characters. And it makes sense, or there's a logic behind interpreting these people who look different as another kind of people. So, still from Sagan and Shklovsky, Sumerian society may have developed gradually over many thousands of years. In any event, a completely convincing demonstration of past contact with an extraterrestrial civilization will always be difficult to prove on textual grounds alone. But stories like the Oannes legend, we mentioned that in the context of merfolk, I believe, and representations, especially of the earliest civilization of the Earth, deserve much more critical studies than have been performed before, with the possibility of direct contact with an extraterrestrial civilization as one of the many possible alternative interpretations. So obviously, it's important to know that Sagan is not saying that this happened and that there is any proof for it. He's just pointing out to maybe this is a way for us to think differently about what life is, what extraterrestrials are, about exactly what kind of people we are as people, what our life is, and what an other would look like. Because we have in our vocabulary the possibility of an alien, quote unquote, being essentially a foreigner, and those foreigners who look very close to us and in terms of their biology are extremely close to ourselves, but we still, through these very, very tiny infinitesimal metrics, we are able to classify them as aliens. So, what is it to be human? What is it to be alive? And what is it to have a kind of life that is different from our own? In other words, is a rock alien to us, considering that it has very little in common with us, as opposed to a rock from outer space that may have nothing in common with a rock from Earth? We might see a lot more similarity between a rock from outer space and a rock from Earth than we would see between a human from outer space and a human from Earth. And also, conversely, it might be possible that the humans from outer space will look a little bit like us, and also it's possible that it will look nothing like us. And of course, this is a big part of this conversation right now, because in the ways that people have portrayed extraterrestrials, and it's very easy to connect those with other supernatural characters that we have seen this semester. For example, this Wookiee is very close to Bigfoot and Sasquatch. It's a large, tall, human-like, ape-like human, much taller than us, just like the great apes are. Not speaking the same language that we do, just like the greatest apes are. Also having access to a certain kind of technology that we have no access to, like an extraterrestrial. So, and how do we make sense out of this Wookiee as a kind of human character, but kind of an alien as well, as we started to do on Monday? There are also, as we mentioned before, ghosts that are portrayed as spirits from Algol. This example here, Phantom from Outer Space, where investigators arrive in the San Fernando Valley after finding a flying saucer, and they receive massive radio disturbances. So again, right, connecting a lot of dots from previous versions, but they don't find anything. They only find this this device there on the left, which just so happens to be a phantom, a spirit. It's an invisible alien who has to live in this weird outfit. And of course, when he wears the outfit, he appears like a human. But if he doesn't, he is invisible. In addition to that, he is also radioactive. So put him in a spacesuit is definitely a bit useful for us so that he doesn't kill us. So intermittently or innocuously, this alien life force could be dangerous to us by being invisible, and just by existing being radioactive would be a problem. But he is still performed as a human in a spacesuit. Now, maybe that's just an easier way in the movies and in the drawings to make sense out of what this character might look like. But also, it could be just a very real way in which we tend to perceive these characters. And even sometimes the aliens can be completely invisible. The example of the Predator from the movies again, those characters having a cloaking device because of their very advanced technology, appearing to us and only when they are in a very specific setting. There's a subculture of Bigfoot and Sasquatch enthusiasts who believe that Bigfoot can cloak as well and appear and disappear at will. So the great debate as if why we cannot see aliens, maybe because they have been hiding from us this whole time. And so if they are made out of spirit, made out of gas. So, if they are a life form that is completely unlike ours, it is also quite possible that we cannot see them. Then what is the question here? I mean, how do we make sense out of these aliens that we cannot see, but yet are supposed to exist in some way? And there are many possibilities to make these aliens more ghost-like or more disembodied, if you will. They appear as clouds sometimes. They appear as these immaterial forces, which obviously is a nice movie trick to make, and certainly having this kind of the technology here described for Predator was very impactful in our consciousness. But the special effects as they are today mean that you have a lot bigger of a range for these non-body aliens. Another example of these particular aliens here from George Henry Weiss, a poet and novelist who published his book as a Francis Flagg. So this is published in magazines called Amazing Stories. I think there were pictures of that in a previous video. This book here called Maroon in Andromeda. So a person is lost in Andromeda, the place. And you can see the alien posted on the cover here. I kind of zoomed in on the left. This is maybe kind of a lizard, maybe kind of a dragon, maybe kind of a snake, maybe kind of like a merfolk. I don't know. I don't know what this thing is, but it's definitely not quite human, but still at the same time a little bit human. So how do we make sense out of these aliens in the sense that they might be maybe water creatures like some ones that we already know? Example much closer to us would be the Na'vi of Avatar, species of extraterrestrial humanoids that inhabit in Pandora, so a different space altogether that have evolved a completely different life. They are referred to by the terrestrial people as blues, as savages, as locals, as hostiles. Of course, the whole idea being to portray them as indigenous folks, and indigenous folks in many ways are alien to the daily Western life that we see, and it is also interesting to see that in the movie the antagonist even call them monkeys or blue monkeys because well they are not like us like the great apes, but also kind of like us like the great apes. So again, classifying these people as a little bit more monkey-like or more ape-like, or in this particular context here, a aquatic monkey as opposed to we, the terrestrial monkeys, is kind of an interesting way to picture what an alien life form might be. So these are very highly intelligent, very technological species, and have um, that have a level of sentience that is very close to ourselves. And obviously, this is one of the questions that is brought about by the movie. Now, the more fantastic versions of aliens might include with the ones that we find in superhero books and comic books. So the Marvel Eternals, Silver Surfer, the Asgardians, a lot of the Marvel characters, I should say, are supposedly from extraterrestrial origin. There's also Superman, who comes from outer space as a DC character. Although it's a Marvel, because the Marvel universe takes place in an alternate kind of setting. DC is supposed to be more of an Earth-like type of setting. Um, would have this closer relationship to real life. So compare Gotham City, for example, which is a representation of New York, in which you have these superheroes and supervillains that are existing. Marvel superheroes living in this multiverse type of situation. And I should probably note that these aliens are not necessarily good characters, or I mean benevolent characters. There's Venom, there's Galactus, also turning into somewhat of an anti-hero, if not completely hostile characters from the start. So the possibilities of aliens being more or less good, more or less bad, more or less helpful to us is certainly important. And there are even vampires living out in outer space. This particular book here is the extract from yesterday, from the Herschel supposedly publication. Attributed to Richard Adams Locke, who was a reporter working for the Sun newspaper, so published it and later admitted that it was a hoax in a letter, even though the rumors kind of kept on going after he admitted that it was a hoax. And he describes his supernatural extraterrestrial beings as being bad characters. Our further observation of the habits of these creatures, who were of both sexes, led to results so very remarkable that I prefer they should be first laid before the public in Dr. Herschel's own work, where I have reason to know they are fully and faithfully stayed, however incredulously they may be received. The three families then almost simultaneously spread their wings and were lost in the dark confines of the canvas, where, before we had time to breathe from our paralyzing astonishment, we scientifically denominated them the Vespertilio Homo, or man-bats, or Batman. And they are doubtless innocent and happy creatures, notwithstanding that some of their amusement would but ill comport with our terrestrial notions of decorum. So they're kind of like us, but they don't really behave like us. So they're just nice people that just don't live the way we do. So yeah, aliens. The idea of these characters being mostly to again to sell some papers, probably to make this journalist a little bit better known. But it's interesting to see that these characters have male and females, just like modern humans, and also they have bats, or bat-like characters. So the modern myths, if you will, of people, and kind of the reductive way that you could picture any kind of human, any kind of technology. And again, right, this tells us a lot about the way that people thought about space in the 19th century, and a little bit more about how much we have changed our view of technology in the world. One last, no, I think there's another example after this. One another example that exists here, from Plan 9 from Outer Space, a movie that was, when it came out, generally hailed as the worst movie of all time, played on television in the 1960s, picturing these characters, these humans, as creating a doomsday weapon that could destroy the universe. So again, right, the alien technology would allow us to have access to new technology. But once the aliens had destroyed all life on Earth, they would trigger Plan 9, a way to resurrect all the humans, except they wouldn't be as horrible as they were before. So kind of like zombies, you might say, or kind of like vampires as well. So by causing chaos, the aliens were hoping that people would kind of get a grip, kind of realize what they have, or else they would be destroyed by the alien technology. So, if we can project any kind of character, any kind of human onto the blank slate of the alien, it is very nice to see that aliens could be literally anything. And just like we, the humans, could actually literally be anything. But it is a lot easier to project on these aliens. It is a lot easier to see from these characters that are not otherwise fleshed out as humans that they can live their lives just like the rest of us do. They could even have a different color of skin. Here we have these characters that are the little green yellowish characters, like the little green men. This particular story here, written a by a a a sorry, a writer who chronicled a Civil War veteran who had to wake up um, from the loss and the Civil War and kind of moving out west in the United States to find new land and kind of deal with his loss from the Civil War. So he goes to Arizona and finds gold. And once he finds gold, he fights with the indigenous folks out there because it is indigenous land. And so he eventually hides into a cave, and going deeper into the cave reaches Mars. And on Mars, he is met with these people of different colors, people who are nomadic, people who are quote unquote savages, and also have these green-like skin. So he describes them very extensively. Their ears, which were slightly above the eyes and closer together, were small, cup-shaped antennae protruding not more than an inch on those young specimens. Their noses were but longitudinal slits in the center of their faces, midway between their mouth and their ears. There was no hair on their bodies, which were of a very light yellowish green color. In the adults, as I was to learn quite soon, this color deepens to an olive green and is darker in the male than in the female. Again, body or sexual dysmorphia in the aliens. Further, the heads of the adults are not so out of proportion to their bodies as in the case of the young. The iris of the eyes is blood red, as in the albinos, while the pupil is dark. The eyeball itself is very white, as are the teeth. The latter add the most ferocious appearance to an otherwise fearsome and terrible countenance, as the lower tusks curve upward to sharp points which end about where the eyes begin. You get the idea. So, the characters, aliens could be of any form or shape depending on how they are portrayed. Sometimes they could be like cats, portrayed here in the Fritz Leiber, the Wanderer. Again, this is a moon alien referred to as the Wanderer because they just live on the moon. But the moon is disappearing, so these people have to come on Earth, and this particular character here comes up to to help humans with her technology. So with the moon disappearing, every element on Earth would have to be thrown out of whack, including the waves. And so this character appears in the context of a tsunami, and the cat from the moon comes in to zap the tsunami out of the ground. And her name or her namesake comes from a cat that one of the people had rescued, and so she sees that a person on Earth has a cat-like figure just like herself, and turns that into a bond of friendship with humans. The later versions of these aliens are a lot more fearsome, a lot more further away from what we humans are looking like. Here, the xenomorph from the Alien movies that are very much unlike us and much more seemingly unfriendly to us as people, except in this particular picture. So the portrayal of these aliens are more or less friendly and more or less useful, more or less technologically advanced is very much varying because, of course, no one has an idea what these aliens might be, and that leaves us with an infinite amount of possibilities as to what an alien might actually be.